Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Chris Mitchell podcast. We've got a very short show today. Thank you, David, for taking your time out of your busy, hectic schedule to come and speak to me. I do want to speak about a couple of topics, but first of all, how are you and how have you been this weekend?
Yeah, I'm all right. A bit miffed with the whole thing. You know, the country's a disaster. Everything's a bit shit. I'm sure, as we're going to talk about slightly later on. Yeah, grim. I think is the reality, Chris. But you know, we just have to keep going. What else can we do?
Absolutely. I mean, I think you're quite a positive guy, the same as myself, man. But I can't help but feel just completely blackpilled with what's going on with our people, the imprisonments of our people, people being charged for community service. I've just completed mine. It's just a disaster, and obviously we'll go into Mr. Costello shortly, but. Do you think with what's going on with the amount of people that are being charged or sent to jail, etc., is now, you know, putting a lot of people off from getting involved in activism? Some people that might be anonymous, thinking about showing their face, is now a bit concerned about their future if they do show themselves or if they do any actual activism.
Yeah, I think you're bang on there, Chris. I'm afraid, and it is such a difficult one. Is how do you do it? And look. This isn't just people on like nationalist circles. This is everywhere now, and I do try and stress that point. Even like your normie UKIP type, you know, they're under threat. It is mostly people on the right who get hit the hardest, but it does also exist slightly on the sort of anti-Zionist left as well. If you're an anti-Zionist left winger, you do get a bit of pushback, but I don't see any of these people going to jail. You know, that's and not that they should be going to jail, but I've been seeing quite a lot of clips, you know, about people. Now, I just think this is all garbage, like Hamas being a prescribed terror organization. One man's terrorist, another man's freedom fighter. I mean, if Hamas are terrorists, which you find they are, so are the CIA, so are NATO, so are Mossad. They're all terrorists. Fair enough. But
yeah, I was watching. I don't know if you've seen the old Mohammed Hijab on the other day. It was a great show, actually, quite funny in spells. But he did make a good point. If you're going to call Hamas a prescribed terror group, then surely the IDF are as well.
Yeah, 100%. But the thing is, you've got clips of people who are praising Hamas. You've got clips of now. I don't think these people should be getting charged. I'm just going to say that. But they're not being charged when it is clearly a prescribed. But it's so ridiculous because the IRA and the UVF are prescribed terrorist organisations. You've got 40, 50,000 people singing about them at the weekend at a Rangers or Celtic game. Yeah, You've got Northern Ireland, people singing about prescribed groups. So it's the selective application of these ridiculous laws. And that's what really, you know, pisses people off, that the regime will target. It's a bit like a hostage situation. They'll just pick one of you out and they'll put a gun to your head and pull the trigger. And that's how they keep the rest of the hostages in line.
I mean, like, obviously, you try and find a positive in anything, but everything, obviously, war's never good. We want peace upon this earth amongst all people, of course. But is there a slight positive now that a lot more people, whether you're on the left side of the fence or the right side of the fence or the far right side of the fence, is becoming more aware of the Zionist agenda?
Yeah, I mean, you can't. It's the elephant in the room, really, isn't it? And you know, I don't regard myself as particularly ideological. I just go with what I see, and you cannot deny that, you know, Western worlds are completely beholden to Zionism. Like, and this isn't just we support Israel kind of stuff. It's utter master-slave relationship. And I mean, when you've got the Secretary of State for the United States of America going to Israel and saying, I don't stand here just as the US Secretary of State, I stand here as a Jew. I mean, everyone's just looking at this and they're like, well, what? And you can't deny it now. Like, I know a lot of people have been talking about this for a number of times, but I mean, it was far more subtle. You know, there was obviously a lot of prominent Jewish people in positions of power in the West, but it wasn't as in your face as it is now. And you look at the Biden administration. I mean, basically the entire Biden administration is Jewish, and that's just a fact.
Yeah, exactly. And look what's happening to Elon Musk on X now. Do you know what I mean? Like Warner Brothers and Disney threatening to pull out ads facing massive backlash. Look, I know he's not fully our guy, but I think what he's doing, at least he's showing some light and awareness with some of the tweets and what's going on with himself. So that can only be a good thing.
I think Elon Musk does believe in free speech. It might all be a psyop, as you say, but I mean, Twitter's a hell of a lot better now than it was 2 years ago, and people are there and there's debating. If there hadn't have been Twitter just now, if you imagine it was the previous Twitter regime, you wouldn't have had people like Keith Woods and others who are out there exposing the lies, and even like the Grey Zone, Max Blumenthal, exposing the lies about October the 7th. Because the entire situation we're in right now is because of this mythical, well, I say mythical, bad things happened on October the 7th. A lot of people lost their lives, but they've come up with a story that isn't true, you know, about the babies being beheaded, the children being put in ovens, women being mass raped. None of these things happened. Yet that's, if you speak to Joe Normie, that's what they believed happened.
Oh, of course, it's like the lampshade and soap stories all over again. It just seems like they get into an office. I think we've got to think of something really ridiculous to push on to the sheep watching from their boxes at home.
Yeah, but I mean, it's really, really backfired on them because they've gone completely over the top. See if they'd have just come out on October the 7th and said, look, these people are terrorists. These people threaten our way of life. I think still not everyone, but I think most people would have been like, right, okay. And then if they'd have taken a bit of time, instead they went in, they've carpet bombed the place. They've killed thousands of children. They've lost all moral legitimacy, and nobody likes them. The right doesn't like them anymore. The left hates them because of all this anti-colonialism. The only people that still love Israel are the elected politicians or that boomer Christian Zionist. But they're being blunt about it, they're all going to be dead in 15 years.
Oh, well, we'll move on swiftly. It's sort of the same topic, but the old Tommy Robinson picture last week, desecrating the UK flag on Armistice Day, very disrespectful thing to do on any day, but to do it on that particular day, half and half with an Israel flag, I think it should be against the law, to be honest. I would. I don't like that sort of thing. I think it should be the whole flag. I mean, I'm more for England first, obviously, but using the UK flag and, you know, chopping half and putting half.
I mean, Tommy Robinson's just been utterly roasted since he's come back on the scene, and everyone's pointing out the thing is, his argument is fundamentally flawed, and that's all people have been doing, and they've been exposing his nonsense and his lies, and I've never seen pushback again. I mean, the thing is, he still does have some points. He's not completely without merit when he talks about how, like, certain parts of England are Islamic ghettos, which they are. Yeah. And he talks about the police being scared to tackle these people, which, again, they are. But the whole just utter shilling for Israel, it's off the charts. And, again, most people will turn around and say, well, you're more passionate about Israel than you are about this country. So what's that all about, Tommy boy?
I mean, like, why didn't he lead? Like, there was a demonstration with Ali Irby, Steve Laws, etc., a few weeks ago in London against the boats. Only about 50, 60 people turned up. Why don't he advertise that demonstration, get someone out for a worthy cause, rather than rallying cry for Armistice Day over a threat that didn't even exist?
It was a total disaster. There was no conversation about the mythical far right, because it is. Again, that is a mythical thing that there's this dangerous far right in this country. There isn't. I mean, there's going to be a few people take it too far, or people who are just a bit beyond. But you'll know most people, Chris, in the scene. It just doesn't exist. It's nowhere near as organised as like the left or anything like that. Whereas putting all those people out, I mean, they were just football casuals. They were out. They were looking for a scrap. And it was delivered on a platter to the government and the media, who can now talk about the threat of the far right.
Agreed. All right, we'll move on to the breaking news. We'll get your initial reaction to the unfortunate sentencing of a very loyal UNM fan, part of Page Alternative as well, Mr. Rev James Costello. I've done a little piece on it myself yesterday. I know you did the show with Mark. But, yeah, what's your reaction to it?
Yeah, I mean, look, again, not covering my arse here. I'm just stating a fact. What James said on the website, I don't agree with. I'm a Christian. The stuff he was talking about was, in my opinion, stupid. But what he was doing was reading out audios from the white man's Bible and uploading them to a website. What the media have done is said that he personally has called for these things. Now, he didn't actually do that. And the facts are the facts. It's like if I was to read out sections of the Old Testament which talks about sodomy being punishable by death, or inbreeding, like all the stuff there, could I go to jail for that now? Now, James was, in my opinion, stupid to do that. He did it a number of years ago. However,
it doesn't warrant 5 years, though, does it?
It doesn't warrant 5 years in prison.
It's just absolutely balmy. What I'm saying is also, we could talk about a number of cases, a number of like rapists that got less, or murderers that's got less, as we've seen in recent days. But it's only 1 month ago. It was always giving him a bit of hope, saying, look, I've heard it on the radio, I've seen articles that they've literally been told to stop giving out jail sentences. Even rapists and all these just been told to give community service, give back to the communities. The jails are full. So I think with your case, surely, maybe that was naive of me to think that, because he's a nationalist and it doesn't surprise me. But for 5 years, I just think
5 years,
green.
And I said that last night on the show. Could I mean, like, there's this Prevent organization. Now, Prevent was created to stop people from becoming like taking the get. Prevent was created to stop people from making the leap from saying things to actually doing it. But then with this case, it was just, they took it, and like I read out what the cop said of the CPS. This could have incited racial tension. Yeah. It didn't. It didn't incite any racial tension. Like, I'm not saying that I don't agree with any hate speech laws. I think they're all bullshit. I would get rid of them all. However, in this case, would it have been okay for the police to go and knock on his door and have a chat and maybe refer him, or even a suspended sentence? I would have spoken, but that would have been fair enough. But 5 years, 5 years.
I was shocked. I mean, like, I just thought, when I knew he was in court, I knew he'd be found guilty, because that's so against us. Can you really imagine, like, I open up a newspaper, far-right extremists found not guilty by a jury? It's just not going to happen. It's so corrupt against us, and I do think any of us go to court, I can't see us winning many. I am quite negative on it all.
No, listen, I mean, I've got to be honest. If the CPS or the Procurator Fiscal or whatever comes up with a case against you, there's only ever going to be one winner. And the times I've spoken to James, I never heard James actually agree with, like, espouse these views. He never said he never said to me, David, we need to start a racial holy war. He never said that. He read these things out from this book on a website. Again, if I'm being honest, it was quite spergy behavior. Like, it is. And if you're going to start jailing people for sperging out, but that, again, this is what they do. It's like these kids that download these books from the internet. None of these kids should be going to jail over this. It's mental.
Again, as I said at the start of the show, a bit of a fear tactic to install on people. Like, look, if you behave like this to say a few hurty words online, you could be facing a lengthy time behind prison and away from your family. Now, it misses Christmas as well. Like, God bless him, man. It's just absolutely.
The other thing is, like, I do this every day. This is my job. I'm more up to date with. But even then, I don't know. I could get pulled up at any time. But I'm a bit more up to date with what you can and cannot say. Like, some people don't know that these laws exist. Yeah. Like, and again, they're all open to interpretation. So, if they decide to throw the book at you, like, what do you do? And that's what it is. It's all about crafting a case and using that case to attack people. And a jury is always going to find you guilty in these situations, because if they don't, it's like Derek Chauvin. No way should Derek Chauvin be in jail right now for murder. Derek Chauvin could maybe have got done for manslaughter.
Oh yeah, manslaughter, definitely.
But even then, his get out was he was merely following procedure that he was taught by the police. It's like this is no different to what happened during like the Salem witch trials or the communist the McCarthy trials. This is exactly the same, except it's just on us now, and anyone who dares dissent.
Absolutely. Right, we'll quickly move on. We've got a lot of time. Just want to discuss, there seems to be a little bit of an obsessed reporter coming for you recently, Mr. Clews. McGivern, is it? Something like that?
Yeah, a Daily Record hack.
One article, isn't it, from about speaking for PA, and I think there's going to be one coming soon, is there, because of your association to the far-right extremists, Costello.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is as well, like, I know you're not a big fan of PA, I get all that, but I just try and, if I'm invited to speak somewhere, I usually go along and speak. And what I say doesn't change. My message remains the same. I'm against all wars, okay? Especially wars in Europe amongst our people that we have much more in common with, but I'm against all wars. Yeah. I believe in peace. Multicultural societies don't work. They fail. No one asked for mass immigration. They didn't. And as a Christian, I am against the progressive tyranny that we now live under. Trans, LGBT, everything like that. So I give the same speech everywhere I go. I'll do that wherever I do it. But obviously the media have this hard on for PA, and it's, you know, in many ways it is a weak spot, and they're targeting that weak spot. But listen, if I hadn't gone and spoke there and just, well, I'm too scared to speak there, well, I'm a bit of a shite bag, because I'm going on about I'm a free speech guy and I'll work with anyone, but I won't go there because the media will use it against me. And that's all it is. It's totally unfair. It's not a public interest news story. I was on the front page of the Daily Record last week. It was a ridiculous article. It didn't make any sense. And I think it's Hope Not Hate. Hope Not Hate are just feeding this guy articles. He's a lazy journalist and he's just publishing them.
I mean, does it bother you, or do you think, like, you know what, actually, it's a good bit of advertisement for you there? I can't remember all the quotes in it, because there was something quite funny you actually said. I think it might be a quote from the conference, which was actually quite funny.
Was that the one about the anti-Semite, the Islamophobe?
And then it was like, it was Mark Collett or something.
That was right. I said the joke I said was, I'm amazed by the diversity so far. I've met an anti-Semite, an Islamophobe, a transphobe, a homophobe, and a far-right anti-vax conspiracy theorist, and that's just Mark Collett.
That was pretty. I can't believe they printed that. I thought.
Yeah, I know, but like that was a joke, but they printed it. I mean, there wasn't really any pushback on it. Like nobody really mentioned it. But I mean, I was walking into shops and there's me staring back at me in the newspaper. Nobody reads the press, but I don't like it because it's totally unfair. Like I do a news show. I don't court the mainstream media. I don't want it. And they're publishing like blatant lies saying this guy is like Britain's leading fascist. I mean, that's what they're basically saying. Yeah, and that's just putting a target on your back. And yeah, so I mean, it does bug you, but you have to roll the punches. I give out a lot of sticks, so I suppose I have to take it back as well.
Absolutely. Like, so I've been doing a lot of traveling, mainly around Eastern Europe, and I found it just quite, I'm not obviously advocating us to all move to Eastern Europe, but it's quite blissful going to these places, see how Christian it is, the amount of churches there, the amount of people you meet, and they're absolutely shocked. Like, because I tell them what's going on here with the LGBT stuff. I mean, they have it a little bit over there, but it's not pushed in the schools. It's not, they don't have massive events, like maybe just a little tiny ones, and the immigration levels are still nowhere near on what we have. I mean, I'm sure you visited Poland. What did you think you experienced when you went there?
Yeah, I mean, Poland's good. Poland's got a lot going for it. The only problem is they're still in the EU and they're a member of NATO as well, and they're very ultra Zionist as well. They were also very pro the war in Ukraine, but they've kind of cooled off on that. So Poland does have a lot going for it, but I reckon they've made a big mistake because they have a lot more in common with Russia and Hungary than they do with America. And you'll find Poland eventually will well, I mean, their birth rate is starting to collapse as well. Like they used to have a really high birth rate, it's starting to collapse. So Poland is a good place, but I can see it starting to fall away. Whereas I've never been to Serbia, I've never been a bit further, but places like probably Belarus, Serbia. Yeah, as you say, it's just these countries are just what we were 40 years ago.
Exactly. Hopefully, it don't change too much there. But yeah, definitely recommend going to Serbia. I've got two final questions because I know you've got to run the show. So, have you got any advice for any activists that's watching your shows or watching my shows that's thinking about getting involved, maybe a bit nervous about the ongoings on at the moment with the likes of Costello, etc.? Have you got any advice for those to try and keep?
I think it's important not to Fed post, and I can't stress that enough. You are held to a different standard if you are going to be involved in politics, especially on the right. You have to be unequivocal in your condemnation of violence or going after any individual. So just, I would say, look, there's no harm in doing it, but just bear in mind you're held to a higher standard. Be wary that people will lead you down a garden path when they want you to talk about certain things, and they might not be who they say they are. But it is a tough one, like because you can lose your job, you can lose your friends, you can lose your family. I mean, that's just the reality of it. You are making a sacrifice, but if you think your country and Europe is worth that sacrifice, then make it. But there is other things. You can do things in the background. You don't need to necessarily show your face. You can work in the background, and that does help as well.
Brilliant. And just before we go to your final thoughts and anything you want to advertise, I've seen you had the flat earther on. Now I'm like, I don't even know about this, to be honest. It's so complex. But just your thoughts on the whole flat earth. Are you convinced there's a flat earth? Or, yeah, what's your thoughts on the whole thing?
I still think the world's round, if I'm being honest. I think it's just that it's so big. It appears to be flat, but I find the flat earth argument quite interesting. Like, I don't know if you saw Elon Musk's SpaceX blew up. It blew up, and a lot of people are saying it hit the firmament, which is like a layer over the earth that is talked about in the Bible.
Is that not something you can try and organise? Maybe a debate, like you hosted a debate between a flat earther and...
The thing is, it's one of these ones where it's not really a good debate because the flat earthers, I mean, this guy Dave Weiss who does it, he would beat most people in a debate just because they talk over you. They know they've always got an answer. There is, but listen, I can't 100% say the world's not flat because I haven't been into space to see it. But I do. My gut feeling tells me it is round. But I think flat Earth comes from nobody trusts anything that the people in power or the political class say about anything. So what's the next most logical step? Well, you're telling me the world's round, right? Fine, it's flat. So get it up you.
Right, I better let you go. But any final thoughts, anything you want to advertise, mate? Thank you so much as well.
Oh, my pleasure. So sorry I couldn't do longer, guys, because I was preparing for my show. But I mean, I obviously I get there's a lot of internal fights, people arguing, and that's fair enough. People are always going to argue, people are always going to fall out. But I do stress that when you see people being targeted by the state, when you see people being attacked by the MSM, I say it's probably best not to join in with that because it could be you next. And yeah, we might all fall out. It's the same with like Tommy Robinson. See, when the media lies about Tommy or the state wants to put him in jail, I don't support that because they'll use exactly the same things against all of us as well. And like Mark spoke about that last night, like all these people screaming anti-Semitism or they're screaming Islamophobia. All these laws will just be used to lock us up. We can't breathe. I can't breathe. You know, I was joking about this last night. Like, maybe this is how like black people felt in the 1950s, 1960s, and in America, when you are hated, if you do speak out, you're loathed. You'll get the hoses turned on you. You know, we are living in that stage. So I think it's good to just always think of the bigger picture. Don't think of short term. And the bigger picture is we need free speech We don't need people going to jail, or we don't need people terrified to speak out. And I think you're right, Chris. All this is designed just to terrify people. And they can't, because, well, they could arrest all of us and put us in a gulag, but it would be a struggle.
Okay, thank you, Dave. Sorry that we've only had a short show. It was a great, entertaining 25 minutes. A lot was uncovered anyway. A lot we went through. Thank you.
Do you know, it's funny. Can I just say this quickly? You look at like the BBC or ITV. They do the Sunday interviews with politicians.
Yeah.
They last like what, 4 or 5 minutes. We've been talking for 25 minutes.
And
it feels like a rush. These are people talking about how the country's run, wars, and it's a 5-minute interview. The whole thing's a farce. You could be talking about this for hours.
Exactly. We'll definitely get
we will do a longer form. Cheers, Chris.
Have a good night, mate. Take care, people. Peace out.